What's up? What's up? What's up? It's your boy Domuto. We're back with another video. Today we're watching SmugStick. What if Super Boo was good? Part 3 and 4. And yeah, I like the story so far, and it's pretty short. So we'll get into it, man. Make sure you like, comment. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Man, we're gonna get into it, man. Lego.
What if scenario? Boo has been more consistent about going to Beerus' planet. Beerus likes to use him for his food-making abilities. Even so, he still hasn't forgiven him for the pudding incident. But at least he respected him as a warrior. Boo would always end up getting kicked out after getting upset and threatening to turn Beerus into candy. But he did also enjoy reading his magazines and watching Goku and Vegeta train. Whis in particular he found interesting, as the way he moved was unlike anything he had seen before. But eventually, Champa appeared at Beerus' planet, seeking to obtain Earth for himself. Boo didn't like this, and actually got really upset and nearly exploded at Champa, before Goku and Vegeta jumped in and stopped him. But the god of destruction of Universe 6 didn't take this lightly, and he promised to destroy him. But to everyone's surprise, Beerus stood up for them. He said that if it's a fight he wants, then that's exactly what he would get. This conversation ended up in the tournament between Universe 6 and Universe 7. And so, preparations began. Boo was just annoyed. He wanted to just go home to Mr. Satan and eat there, but he had no choice. Gohan couldn't attend due to a prior commitment, but he did start to train again, which Piccolo was proud of, and accepted to enter in his student's stead. With the team of Super Boo, Piccolo, Goku, Vegeta, and Monaka, the team heads towards the Super Dragon Ball. What took everyone by surprise was the written exam. Everyone was nervous, especially about Boo. He may have gotten a little smarter over the years, but he would certainly fail. Even Boo thought this as he tried to eat the pencil. But Goten and Trunks had a different idea. They were disappointed that they weren't asked to enter the tournament, so they came up with a plan. Boo exclaimed that he needed to use the bathroom, running off and peeing by the bleachers. That's when Goten and Trunks snuck up behind him, telling him their idea. He should absorb them as Gotenks. Not only would that power him up, but he would get smart enough to pass the test. Boo doubted it. They were just kids, like himself. Goten and Trunks looked at each other in confusion. Boo was several thousand years old, but whatever. Boo did admire just how tenacious they were. Trunks was a genius in his own right, and once they fused into Gotenks, they warned Boo that they better get to really show off their moves during the fight, otherwise he'll be mad. Boo finally accepts and absorbs Gotenks, who regretted doing this almost instantly. This was the second time he was absorbed. Just as Vados was about to disqualify him, Boo reappeared with a brand new vest and a cocky smirk. This was going to be too easy. Boo aced the exam and finished quick enough to draw doodles of Gotenks ghosts all over the page, which Vados gave a -3 points to. Either way, the tournament began. Goku and Vegeta rolled their eyes, knowing what Goten and Trunks did, but at the very least, it meant that they wanted to fight, and that was okay with them. Boo is the first to bat, making Mr. Satan comment on how it would have been amusing to see the old fat Boo fight against this Botamo guy. Instantly, Boo rushed in, throwing any and every punch, only to realize that none of them had any effect on Botamo. No problem, he himself had similar properties, and he knew how to win. Boo unleashed a galactic donut around Botamo, which left him stuck in place, before Boo just knocked him to the ground and rolled him out of the arena. Champa got angry that Boo guy was cheating. Next up was Frost, who was confident about his abilities, but Boo wasn't affected by anything First Form Frost threw his way, making Bootanks exclaim how he knows that he has more forms than just that. He's a little insulted that Frost would think that would be enough. Frost agrees and transforms into his final form, confident that he can win. Frost and the rest of the Universe 6 fighters were still a lot stronger than he expected. As the fight ramped up, Frost began to get a little desperate, as he landed only a few punches. Why wasn't Boo going down? Bootank smirked. He wouldn't be taken out just like that, turning himself into a ball that swung around the entire stage, smacking Frost with such speed that he couldn't do anything. Ultimately, he was defeated and thrown out of the ring, but Frost wouldn't give up. He was freaking out. Why hadn't the poison worked? That's when the referee stopped him. Poison? He was trying to poison Boo? Boo had actually recognized something entering his body, but it just made him feel a little tipsy if anything. Champa nearly killed Frost, but Boo is the bigger issue. They need to stop him at Magetta. Goku and Vegeta were also starting to get annoyed. At this rate, they wouldn't be able to participate. But the Magetta fight actually proved to be a huge issue for Boo. He could pack a punch, but the incredible heat of the cage Champa placed around the arena began to melt Boo down. Little bits scattered off around the arena until Magetta was surrounded by the puddles. It got to the point where Boo was nowhere to be found. He was just scattered around the arena. And so the cage was lowered, and the referee wondered if he should disqualify Magetta for killing Boo, when suddenly all of the puddles around Magetta began to reform at once into one large mass that smashed itself against Magetta. The surprise knocked him back into the edge of the arena. Boo had rearranged himself incorrectly, as his hands were placed where his feet should be, but he once again declared himself the Grim Reaper of Justice, and that he defeated this stupid bucket of bolts, flipping off Magetta. At that second, Magetta lost balance, fell off the stage, and started crying. Boo was confused. He didn't expect Magetta to be so sensitive. Chi-Chi and Bulma, on the other hand, were furious at Gotenks within Boo, since they knew it was really their doing. They yelled at him, and they warned of no video games and no sweet treats once the tournament was over. Next up was Kaba, who really didn't want to fight Boo, but he had to do what he had to do. That's when Vegeta stepped up and interrupted them. Could he switch places with Boo until he lost? He wanted to have a chance to battle this Saiyan, at the very least. Boo didn't really care either way, and Champa was actually excited to allow this. At least Kaba would stand a chance against Vegeta. This Boo guy had too many weird tricks. The fight goes on as in the original, with Vegeta showing off Super Saiyan and forcing Kaba into it, then bursting into Super Saiyan Blue to really show the potential of the Saiyans. Champa was disappointed when the fight didn't go his way. Looks like they'll be going home soon. The tournament hadn't even lasted 25 minutes, but Vegeta didn't stand a chance against Hit, which finally gave Universe 6 some much needed breathing room. Only to remember that there were still 4 more fighters, including Majin Buu. But he heard the sound of Goku's knuckles cracking. It wasn't over yet, and he had something under his sleeve. Hit sighed. He'd have to end this quickly. However, similarly to the original, and after using the Kaioken Super Saiyan Blue, Goku realized that they couldn't fight as they wanted. Plus, Hit was already hurt. Goku wouldn't be satisfied. And so, with nothing else to do, Goku jumps off the stage and says, "Good luck, Piccolo." Hit was confused, but also mesmerized by Goku. The Namekian stepped up, but Hit already knew that he had been victorious. All things considered, Piccolo does okay. After all, he got to analyze what Hit moved like, and gather hints from the battle against Goku. But his power was far outmatched. It was clear that he needed more training. Goku, Vegeta, Buu, even this Hit guy, they had all left him in the dust. If he didn't step it up a notch, he won't be able to ever compete again. Piccolo did land a few good strikes, especially as he fired multiple blasts around the entire arena, with Hit easily avoiding them, not realizing that they stayed in place as key mines surrounding him. When he time skipped, Hit nearly blew himself up, but avoided it just in time. Even so, Piccolo used the remaining mines as a Hell Zone grenade. Hit managed to block and expand his aura, but it did hurt him. In that moment, he snapped forward and punched Piccolo in the chest.
Is Piccolo stronger than what he was originally? Because he could barely do anything against Frost.
Knocking him out.
Whatever.
Champa couldn't help but cheer loudly. Maybe they did stand a chance after all,
Whatever.
especially once Monaka stepped up to the ring. Hit really considered just jumping off the stage like Goku had, but he remembered that Universe 7 did have one last fighter, Super Buu, and he was really interested in how he would fight against him. At the start of the match, Hit punched Monaka across the face and sent him hurling into Champa. It was a one-hit KO, and they were sure that he was dead, at least at first. But Hit didn't put all of his power into that punch. He needed to save it for the real fight. As Kibito rushes to Monaka to heal him, Hit turns around to stare down at Super Buu. Champa is biting his nails in desperation. He had completely forgotten that Super Buu didn't lose and that he could still come back as the final warrior. And so, with a twist of his body and with Champa ready to jump off a building, Super Buu appeared on the stage. Even so, Hit was sure of himself. It was extremely difficult for Buu. Despite his strange techniques, Hit had been examining Buu's moves meticulously to the point of predicting what he would do. That was until he time skipped just as Buu left behind a kamikaze ghost, inadvertently exploding the bomb and hurting both himself and Buu. But that wouldn't work twice, even if it was a smart move. Buu tried to unleash the kamikaze ghost once again, only to have Goten and Trunks defuse within him and take an extremely powerful blow to the chest. Buu is knocked back and nearly falls off off the edge of the arena. The shock from the power down nearly cost him the match. Champa stood up in excitement, when suddenly Super Boo spun his head all the way around and blew down a wave of air that pushed him back up to the arena. It was far closer than he expected. Without Gotenks' moves, he was certainly at a bit more of a disadvantage, but he didn't need Gotenks to win. Hit may have gotten a chance to analyze Super Boo's moves,
I mean, you
but
still got
Super
Goten
Boo
and Trunks
did
in
the
him.
same thing to him. Hit thought that Super Boo was just sleeping the entire time, which was now obviously not true, since he took inspiration from Piccolo's technique to pull off that kamikaze ghost move. Super Boo had one more idea, pulling his arm up to the sky and firing hundreds of blasts. In a different reality, this would have been used to kill everyone on Earth, but here, it was going to make sure that he
That was a
won.
crazy
But it
ass
wouldn't be
move right
easy,
there.
as Hit took a step and time skipped to push Super Boo out of the arena. He was at the very edge. This would be easy, but as he did that, he realized that Super Boo was no longer standing right where he used to be. He had disappeared from the spot where he fired the bullets, and was now behind Hit. As Hit turned around to strike, he realized that Super Boo's eyes were following him. Hit was surprised and staggered back as time resumed, and the key bullets rained down upon the arena. No one knew exactly what happened, but Hit and Goku had their suspicions. Super Boo was trying to adapt the time skip into something he could use. After all, one of the many properties Boo has is the ability to copy techniques and moves easily, like with the instant transmission and the Kamehameha in the original story. Super Boo
can't
had
do that.
analyzed Hit, and though he didn't quite understand the time skip, he did try his best to use it. It wasn't perfect, but it allowed him to read Hit and use an early version of his own time skip. The bullets finished, and from the cloud of smoke, it was revealed that Hit was no longer standing on the arena, as there was very little of it left. Hit had been ringed out. As the assassin stood up, he looked at Boo and nodded at him, respecting his abilities. Universe 7 had interesting fighters. If only he could have fought at 100%, he would have certainly won. Now Super Boo was all hungry, and he had considered eating Hit. He still didn't quite get the time skip, and if he absorbed him, he would have mastered him.
Ew.
But would that have counted as a disqualification? Still, Boo was happy to have gotten to fight such powerful opponents. Chi-Chi and Bulma yelled at Boo to release the boys, which Boo did. He didn't want them if they didn't have Gotenks anyways. Just then, however, the Omni King appeared in the middle of the ring, pleased with the results. Goku tried to make quick friends of him, but Boo didn't like the others telling him to vow. Instead, he smirked and took slow steps towards the Omni King, saying that he doesn't look so tough. But Zeno is in awe at Super Boo. He floats around him, analyzing him and poking him. He has so many cool moves and abilities. Boo didn't expect this response from Zeno, but he also liked being praised. When the idea for a multiversal tournament came up, Zeno made Goku and the rest promise to participate, especially Boo. He was quite interesting. Boo was way too hungry though, and refused to participate in anything until he ate, turning the stage into a giant candy bar, and began eating it. Zeno ate some too, though Boo only let him have a little piece. And finally, the wish to revive Universe 6's Earth
funny.
was made. Zeno thought to himself that perhaps he could make Boo into his own personal chef, with the guards getting very nervous at the prospect. But that would be for a later date. And so the team returned to Earth, but an even greater darkness loomed beyond. Zamasu, a renegade Kaioshin, had taken interest in Goku's power after seeing it on GodTube. The Boo was interesting too. He had very weird moves, but he was still just a mortal. That was until in between rounds. The video captured the Universe 6 Kaioshin and Champa discussing just why Boo had God Ki. None of them understood why, though he did look familiar to the Kais. Zamasu stood up, eyes widened. So, he wasn't just a mortal, was he? What was this thing? This reaction caught Gowazu's attention, who turned to look at the screen. He also wasn't sure what this Boo person was, but he did remind him of something Shin said to him long ago, when Gowazu visited Universe 7 and found that none of his friends were around anymore, except for the youngest Kai. Apparently, a couple of thousands of years before, the rest of the Kais were completely wiped out by a being
Kid Boo.
named Majin Buu,
Majin Buu.
a strange monster created by Bibidi. But there's no way that being was working with Universe 7. Gowazu dismissed the thought and walked away, but Zamasu was left paralyzed. That Majin Buu guy wasn't even a mere mortal. He was a science experiment by some magician. In Zamasu's eyes, Buu didn't even count as life. Yet he paraded around with God Ki, perhaps even killed other gods. At that moment, Zamasu declared his manifesto, the destruction of all mortal life.
Oh,
And
shit.
starts now. Boo was sleeping at Mr. Satan's place,
Okay.
while at Capsule Corp a time
Part
machine
4.
landed. Future Trunks had returned and sought help against the evil known as Goku Black. Goku and Vegeta were ready to help Trunks just like the original story, but it would still take a little bit of time to repair the time machine after Goku Black appeared and destroyed it. While they waited, Goku investigated Zamasu with Beerus, while Vegeta trained Trunks. Boo eventually woke up during this time, as Vegeta sought his help to train Trunks. If they were going to have to fight Kakarot, then maybe Boo could try and mimic some of his moves. Trunks was surprised to see what Boo looked like. He never actually got to lay eyes on him since they stopped his birth just in time. As they battled Boo, who pretended to act like Goku, Trunks saw just how similar he actually was to Black. The way he moved and acted, it was unnerving. Could Boo truly be trusted? Even Vegeta himself still wasn't sure, but he had been great help so far. And eventually, the time to go to the future arrived. Boo wasn't really impressed, and he didn't really want to go to the future, but he promised to do so as long as you subscribe. And a destroyed future meant a lot of destroyed buildings waiting to be turned into candy. And Boo did turn things into candy just as he arrived, much to Trunks' disdain. Looks like they have less cover now, but above that, it drew the attention of Goku Black. He arrived with a sadistic smirk, even stronger than the last time they met. But he was surprised to see Boo. Had they really teamed up with that terrible force of nature? Are there really no lows mortals won't sink to? But none of them listened, as they rushed in at Black. The fight was intense and extremely difficult, even more so than in the original story. Boo tried to help as well, but it was as if Black knew everything Boo was going to do. As Vegeta and Black clashed blasts, Boo appeared behind Black and wrapped himself around him, keeping him in place as the blast came his way. With no chance to escape, Boo let go just in time. It was a stray hit. Surely, that had done it. But as the smoke dissipated, Goku Black was seen in an awful state, melting away into pink bits. Everyone was left in awe as he began to rebuild himself back up. Black began to laugh. What they saw was just a facade, because this Goku Black didn't switch bodies with Goku. Instead, he switched bodies with Majin Buu, and then proceeded to absorb Goku. He knew that if he ever crossed paths with Boo, he would be extremely troublesome, so he thought ahead. Similarly to the Grand Kaioshin and Majin Buu switching places during the Moro arc, Black is using Goku's appearance as opposed to the grotesque form of Boo. Zamasu wasn't planning on stealing Boo's body at first. He cared more about Goku and what he represented with his Super Saiyan God. But
Gotcha.
Boo, a bastardization of life, who's actually murdered gods, and whose God Ki did not belong to him, angered him a lot more. Boo exploded in rage, steam pouring out of his head. He went in to attack Black without hesitation, but he had never fought himself like this. From extending limbs, copying abilities, there was no way for Boo to be unpredictable. But Boo did have one thing over Black. He had more control over all of it. Boo used his body in creative ways, such as turning himself into a ball, digging underground, appearing in various places, etc. Black was too proud to do any of that. And so, despite Black maybe being stronger, it forced him back into the defensive. It seemed like it was all over, but just then a second blast hit a tower. It was Zamasu. It was clear that Boo was getting too desperate and upset about this now, and he started to do worse and worse against Black. Above that, the Z fighters now had to try and avoid Zamasu. For some reason, however, Black wasn't trying to absorb them. In reality, Black hated these mortals so much that even just having to use Goku as part of his body disgusted him. With Boo, at least he could sense some remnants of God Ki, and with him not actually being immortal, it made him feel a little better.
I am above all mortals and all gods, don't you see? That's why you're afraid, Majin Buu. The Grand Kaioshin of Universe 7 lost, absorbed by you. You can have God Ki, but it doesn't belong to you. You should be glad that someone such as myself decided to use your body for a purpose greater than anything you were born to do.
Boo screamed out and rushed once more, launching a barrage of Kamehamehas. But Black responded by exploding his power into a new form. His aura sizzled into a pink one. Super Saiyan Rose.
What do you think of this color? I've even claimed it as my own.
The Z-Fighters were only getting hurt, with Boo enraged and bloodlusted. He was now a danger to everyone. They needed to retreat. What's more, the revelation of Zamasu being immortal meant that they needed to figure out a way to lock away the Kai. Without a choice,
Boo can
Goku
absorb that
grabbed
nigga.
Trunks, Vegeta, Boo, and Mai and teleported wherever he could find some ki. They reappeared underground alongside some
absorb regular
survivors,
Zamasu,
but Boo
though.
was livid. His steam quickly covered the room as Goku and the others tried to calm him down. Goku yelled at Boo that they can defeat Black and get payback, but that getting angrier isn't going to help them. Boo wouldn't listen. Something very bad could happen if they didn't calm him down. Realizing that what Zamasu said was indeed true, he could sense an intense amount of God Ki within Boo. It was very strange, almost similar to Zamasu's own. Nothing was working, but Trunks slowly approached Boo. He didn't know why, but Boo reminded him of someone. He reached out to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. It burned Trunks, but Boo's eyes shifted to look at him. Reflected in them, he could see a Kai. Slowly, Boo began to calm down. In reality, as the Dragon Ball Super manga explains, Trunks had undergone a Kaioshin initiation ritual when he trained with Shin. It's not the same as getting your potential unlocked. Instead, this one makes you a Kai in training. This connection between Trunks and the Kais within Boo seemed to calm him down, which surprised everyone. But they didn't have time to ruminate on it, as they heard explosions coming from the outside. Trunks told Goku and Vegeta that they needed to move and find a way to stop Zamasu. He would stay behind. But not just that, he also asked for Boo to stay. They were confused. Surely he would be a liability with his anger. Trunks shook his head. It's hard enough to protect the world without any help. Boo would be a great asset. The team agreed. They headed to the surface, popping the capsule containing the time machine. Just then, Black and Zamasu spotted them and sought to stop them. But the more calm Boo was able to move better and try new things out. But it was obvious that Black and Zamasu were more focused on Goku and Vegeta. In a desperate move, as Boo and Trunks blocked a powerful blast together, Trunks turned to the side and yelled at Boo to use his power. But before being absorbed, Trunks made Boo promise to release him after. The Majin appreciated the trust put in him, despite everything. As Boo, Trunks absorbed, appeared at the battle site. He launched a burst cannon that finally pushed back Black and Zamasu. Vegeta and Goku boarded the ship, and so, the time machine disappeared. Goku and Vegeta did what they could in the past. Vegeta trained in the time chamber while Goku went off to take care of President Zamasu. The plan was obvious, using the Mafuba. As Boo continued to battle against Black, he gained a lot more tactical knowledge thanks to Trunks. He knew when to escape and when to challenge his enemy, hiding his presence to strike at critical
Why you got the
moments.
Trunks
He kept
jacket
Mai
on?
and the other humans safe, even if
stupid.
Mai was terrified of the situation. Black was getting tired of it, but he pursued Boo again through the landscape, until eventually the time machine returned. Goku and Vegeta were ready to challenge them again, and a small battle started, where Black had to admit just how much Goku and Vegeta had actually improved since the last time. He would kill their families just like he killed Chi-Chi, Goten, Gohan, and Mr. Satan. When Boo realized that Mr. Satan had been killed using his body, several pink blasts came Black's way. He turned to look, but no one was there. Instead, Boo came crashing down from the sky and threw Zamasu with his sword. This was the opening Goku was searching for, as he unleashed the Mafuba, with Boo jumping out of the way, but it was no use. Despite the successful move, the lack of seal allowed Zamasu to escape, but he was livid. He didn't care about morality anymore. He demanded that Black absorbs the other fighters and get this over with, but Black refused. He already suffered the fate of using a mortal's and a Majin's body to accomplish his goals. He hated having stooped to this level, while Boo took the chance to heal Goku and Vegeta in secret. He did have another idea, but it was very risky. Zamasu then snaps out of it, seeing that Goku and the others were recovering, going in for an attack. He yells at Black once again that they need to absorb them now, but Black was over the edge in anger and desperation. The Z-Fighter's eyes widened as Black deforms from Goku and back into Super Boo, only to launch parts of his chest into Zamasu, consuming him and absorbing him. Goku was left in shock. How could he betray his friend like that? Well, not even a friend himself. There was a great storm of energy that swirled around Black as his body was reformed stronger than ever before, but he didn't look right. He looked like a monster mix of Boo, with Zamasu and Goku faces popping out of various places on his body, as if they were trying to escape. Spikes protruded from Boo and into every direction, striking Vegeta and the others, piercing through them. Boo was the one they were surprised by, as he swiftly dodged the spikes. Vegeta and Black assumed it was because he knew what the move entailed, but Goku realized something else. Boo had moved similarly to Whis. It wasn't the same flair, but it was as if he was trying to mimic him. It made sense after all. One of Boo's main techniques is the power of copying abilities from fighters. In essence, Boo was trying to copy Whis' Ultra Instinct. It was nowhere near perfect, but it saved him. but it couldn't save him from the relentless onslaught unleashed by Merge Zamasu, who released several clones and tried to turn everyone into candy. Buildings left and right were turned into candy canes and chocolate bars. Boo tried to counteract it, but did take a few bites out of buildings here and there. He was caught in the middle of a maelstrom of kicks and punches, brought down to the ground until Vegeta flashed through with a Gallic gun, saving Boo. He told him that he'd better not get himself killed before releasing Trunks. He wasn't sure if Boo was worth all this trouble. The fighters were able to keep...
Nigga pulled a fuck. Naruto. Madara. This nigga he got this Hashirama shells on him.
Black at bay for now by working all together, but it was starting to weigh them down. He was clearly going a little insane, as while Goku and Vegeta distracted Black, Boo came down from the sky and sliced clear through the middle of him. But the enemy simply reformed himself, or at least tried to. It seemed like the absorption of the immortal Zamasu had doubled his insanity as he began to convulse, melting onto himself. He fired a candy beam at Boo, which he barely managed to dodge, but it was just getting him away as Black then lifted his arm up to the sky and fired a storm of bullets. Vegeta and Goku tried to save civilians as Boo cared more about just finally stopping Black, but it was no use. There were too many of them, and a few struck Goku and Vegeta. They were able to save Mai, Yajirobe, and a few others, but not everyone was lucky. Black laughed as he turned more buildings into candy. Just then, Gowazu and Shin arrived. Shin had promised Goku that he would help with the issue after it was revealed that Zamasu was trying to kill Gowazu in the present. The situation was extremely dire, as Black then focused on Gowazu and attacked. Goku and Vegeta got in the way, but a candy beam forced them to grab Gowazu and roll out of there. He was aiming to eat them all, a fate too good for them, Black said. Gowazu could tell the difference in power was too great, and he suggested using the Potara to fuse. Vegeta did not want to do this. Goku grabbed Vegeta and told him that if they fail now, not only will the universe be destroyed, but their own timeline will suffer the same fate. Not only will Trunks die within Boo, but young Trunks, Bulma, and everyone else they love. Vegeta accepted and placed an earring on. The battle came to a standstill then, as a being pushed Boo and Black away from each other by landing in the middle. "Come on, Boo, we can't slow down now," Vegito said with a cocky smirk. Zamasu's stance grotesquely deformed, dripping with unstable, glowing ooze. The air cackles with energy as Super Boo kicks off the battle, stretching his arm and morphing his hand into a massive sword. He slashes through the air, sending waves of energy towards Merge Zamasu, who raised a shield of Dark Ki to block the attacks. Vegito Blue seized the moment, darting forward and engaging Zamasu in a high-speed melee. His fists were a blur, marking the monster's body. Zamasu focused on parrying Vegito's assault as Super Boo calls out,
"Catch this!"
and unleashed a pink finish buster. The energy hits Zamasu from behind, throwing him off balance and allowing Vegito to land a powerful uppercut, sending Zamasu up to the sky. As he recovers, he senses an intense aura from below, looking down to see Boo and Vegito standing back to back, arms up to the sky as they released a final heat dome attack. Zamasu tries to dodge it, but his whole left side is struck, screaming out in pain as he falls down into the candy-filled city. With Zamasu weakened, Super Boo launched bits of his body to pin him against the wall. Zamasu tries to free himself, but it's too late. Vegito steps back, his hands glowing with blue energy as he prepares a devastating spirit sword. By his side, Boo held onto Trunks' sword, filling it with dark Majin energy as the two burst forward. Zamasu finally frees himself and starts to fire blast at the two, but the Z fighters swirl around each other, avoiding the ki bullets, until they swing their swords across Zamasu's body, splitting him apart along with the building he was pressed against. The ground shakes as Zamasu's screams echo, his body unable to control this immense power, as if his very being was incompatible. He instead began to disintegrate. It seemed like it was over as Vegito defused, and Super Boo finally released Trunks after Vegeta yelled him to do so. The future warrior looked around as he remembered the difficult battle. Trunks thanked them all, but as they celebrated, Gowazu and Shin yelled to watch out, as the sparkles that were once Zamasu were now forming into something in the sky.
Shit,
Only Zamasu's bottom half remained. They didn't know know how to stop it, but Boo did, and he was hungry. Before the body could completely disappear, Boo used his time skip to appear before Zamasu, stretching his whole body over the god to cover it, as Zamasu's presence was spreading around. But almost as if he was extinguishing a flame, slowly, Boo was able to wrap himself around Zamasu and absorb him onto himself. Goku and Vegeta tried to stop him at first, before realizing that this may be their only chance to save the future. But Boo's body was releasing so much steam that it began to cover the entire city. His ki was rising to an incredible degree, until it finally calmed down. With a wave of his hand, Goku moved away the steam to reveal a new Boo, one standing tall, wearing the Kaioshin garb. He was smarter, more articulate, but above all, powerful. The Z-Fighters were a little scared, but Boo simply walked up to them.
Problem solved. The god's done for.
They were worried about what this could mean, but as soon as he started eating the chocolate, they all settled down. He seemed like regular old Boo, but just a little meaner and maybe smarter. Either way, Trunks was grateful. Boo was still acting relatively normal and civil, and even fell asleep prior to departing home. But he did say something that made Trunks worry. Trunks began to make plans to rebuild with Mai. However, Boo commented on how the efforts of the mortals are ultimately tragic. Trunks had to rebuild after the androids, only to Black appear. It seemed futile, as if it was just a matter of time until another crazed monster appeared. It was a very dark sentiment, and Trunks actually turned to Boo and stared him down. Boo may not exactly be immortal, but that doesn't mean he gets to look down upon them. Boo snapped out of it, and said that he didn't mean it like that. It was just a shame. Boo did eventually help rebuild, thanks to his magic powers, but slowly began to doze off. Eventually, the Z-Fighters returned back home, and finally rested for a bit. Once they were settled, Beerus and Whis appeared. Goku and Vegeta had been waiting for this, as they wanted Boo to release Zamasu, so Boo can get rid of him. But there's an issue. Boo has actually been asleep for a while. The fight against Zamasu took a lot out of him, and now he was in deep slumber. They went to Mr. Satan's house to confirm, and the Z-Fighters looked curiously at Beerus as he circled around Boo. He could sense Zamasu's energy within, but there was little he could do. Even if Boo does release Zamasu, Beerus just can't kill an immortal. The best thing for them to do now is to keep him within him. Goku did admit that Boo was a lot stronger thanks to this, and that it would be useful during the Tournament of Power. Everyone turned to look at Goku as he explained what he meant. Unlike the original, where Trunks has no timeline to return to, does indeed have one here, so there's less heat on him to leave. So, after much asking from Goku and Vegeta, Beerus agrees to allow him in the tournament.
Okay.
Meanwhile, they would place Boo in the time chamber for the time being, so he will wake up in time for the tournament. The next greatest adventure is right around the corner.
Anyway, shout out to SmugStick for this video. It was fire. I kind of like this idea. He got Zamasu in him now, so Boo is very strong, and we're gonna see where it goes there. So watch. So if you like my reaction, make sure you check out the last chapters right here. Check out another video you might like right here, and I'll catch y'all next time, man. Peace.